giving 2-3 sentence answers. For some questions, we may not have 2-3 sentences to say. For example, when they ask you about your favorite flavor of chocolate, we may just say our favorite chocolate, but we may not actually have anything else to say than that. So what do you do during those times? Like, what all kinds of information can you add? It's not that you have to learn one particular answer by heart, but it's about understanding and having an idea about what kind of information you'll add. For example, another question is liking questions, like, do you like something? So you tell them you like them or you don't like them, and then that's like your answer would be over within one sentence. So we don't want our answers to be over that way. We need to say at least 2-3 sentences. So how will you add more information to it? You can say something like why. You can add the answer why. You can add why you like it, why you don't like it. Even with favorite chocolate, you can say why that chocolate is your favorite. You can add information on when it was the first time you had it and how you felt when you had it, and a little more information. But first few sentences or first few phrases should be about the question directly, okay? If the question is asking you about what's your favorite chocolate flavor, your first sentence should be about your favorite chocolate flavor, and then you can add additional information. So even if the examiner stops you in between, you've actually answered the whole question. All right, so that's how we will be doing. So we'll start off with some questions. Some questions like wild animals, questions on wild animals. I've actually picked up a lot of questions on it because we'll cover all the types of questions you could possibly get on that, and we will find some sample answers for it. So now we'll start with the questions. We shouldn't waste, really not waste any of our time. I hope you'll remember the assessment criteria. Just like a reminder, let me tell you what are the four assessment criteria: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. So these are the four assessment criteria, and always your focus should be on these four assessment criteria. Okay, so now I'll show the questions on the screen. You can type in your answers. You can tell me what you think would be an answer for it. And of course, like I always tell you, in speaking you don't have anything like right answer and wrong answer. It's always there's like, okay, if you say I don't like it, it's wrong. If you say I like it, it's right. No, it's always the same. All right, it's always a right answer, but your answers would have some problems if you were not answering it according to the four assessment criteria or doing something like that. So now we'll start off with the questions. So and the questions will be displayed on the screen now. The first question is, are there wild animals in your country? That's your first question. Are there wild animals in your country? Answer this question. Tell me, what do you think could be the answer for it? Okay, so you would say the first sentence would be easy for us because the question is so direct. Are there wild animals in your country? So you could be very confident, and you can just simply say, oh yes, there are wild animals in my country. But then comes the problem. You shouldn't be repeating the words in the question. Okay? So in India, there are many wild animals or wildlife. India is rich with wildlife. My country is actually rich in wild animals, or it has a lot of wildlife. Something like that. Okay, so or if you're aiming for a band 7 or a band 6 or something like that, even if you say the same words in the question, you will still be able, if provided you're fulfilling the other criteria, you will get banked 7 or 6 or something like that. It's possible. So if you find it hard to just rephrase it, just say it in the way that comes to your mind, but make sure you focus on other aspects of your assessment criteria. You'll still be able to get the desired score. So for example, you can say, there are wild animals in my country. We have lions, tigers, and all of those animals, but those are in the dense forest actually, and we wouldn't be able to see them other than in TV. So a lot of scientists and researchers would just go exploring it, but we do have so many animals like lions, tigers, elephants, and many more. And in different parts of the country, different types of animals could be seen, like a variety of species could actually be found. And it is very interesting because India is a very diverse and large country. Okay, so that would do. Look at the answer. Yes, my country is home to many wild animals. You see, that's a very good usage. That's the best way to rephrase it. So you learn it. When you see something like this, you just try to learn it. Home to many wild animals. Instead of saying there are many wild animals, you can say it is home to many wild animals. My country is home to many wild animals, including lions and tigers. You can find some of them in zoos and national parks, while most inhabit the deep jungles. Unfortunately, some of these animals are at the risk of extinction. The government is enacting policies to protect and preserve them. If you are a student who has no idea about this question and who is finding it hard to frame and form ideas, this sample answer can help you so much. You read this answer and you try to say it on your own. And if you're missing some words, just look at it and learn those words. For example, you can start it by saying, my homeland, or my country is actually a home to many wild animals. We have so many animals like tigers, lions, and elephants and things like that. If you want to see them, you can go to zoos or national parks or something like that to see these animals. But most of them are in the deep jungles, and some of these animals are actually facing the threat of extinction, and government is implementing policies to preserve them and to conserve them. All right, you're saying the same ideas mentioned here, but in your own words. That's how you learn it. Okay, so just go through that answer. Just go through it. Okay, so I hope you went through it. Now let's move on to the second question. Have you ever been to a zoo or a safari park? Yes, I've been to the zoo. It was an amazing experience. That's one of the best memories I have. I remember the day at the time I got into the zoo, I could see so many animals like monkeys, elephants, lions, giraffes, tigers, and some small animals like snakes and reptiles and things like that. It was so much fun to see all these animals, interesting animals, and they all looked very beautiful in different colors and different sizes, but each looked very different. So it was a great experience, and I went with my friends when I went for an excursion from my school. So now I have a feeling that I need to go visit a zoo with my family, with my parents. Okay, let's see. Yes, I visited a zoo in Trivandrum during a school study tour. So here it is going directly to the school tour. Initially, I wasn't very interested, but once inside, so at first I was not very happy, but once I got inside, I was completely fascinated by And this is another point that you should be careful about. Um, you guys might know the word fascinated, but you don't know how to put it. Fascinated by. Some people might say fascinated of, fascinated with. No. So these are the things you should pay attention to. And you should try to learn the complete usage, not the word, how it is actually used. I was completely fascinated by the wonders of nature. I saw numerous monkeys, snakes, lions, and tigers, and many other animals whose names I can't recall now. I thoroughly enjoyed the experience and would love to visit the same place with my family. So, you can see I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Look at the usages. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Instead of saying I really enjoyed it, you can say I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Next question. What is the animal you would like to see in the wild? So maybe if you want, you can start off with by saying there are many animals that I would definitely want to see in the wild, but one that I really wished I could see would be lion, because I've heard about lions so much and I've seen lions on TV, but I would love to know how they are in the wild, being the king of the jungle. How do they live and how do they manage to stay as the kings of jungles? So I'm super curious and excited to see that. You can say something like that. I'll show you a sample answer. I'd love to see a lion in the jungle because we've always heard of it as the king of the jungle. I'm very curious to observe how it behaves as the king and how it maintains this status despite not being the largest animal in the jungle. How it maintains the status. Okay, how it manages to stay as king, how it maintains the status of king despite not being the largest animal in the jungle. Okay? Next question. Are there TV programs about wild animals in your country? Are there TV programs about wild animals in your country? Well, I'm not sure if we actually have TV programs in my country about wild animals, but we are able to see these TV programs, but I'm not sure if these were shot in India or if these companies are actually Indian companies. So I think it's more of Western content presented here, like contents owned by other companies presented in the Indian TV channels. So, but there are few channels which show some clippings of animals and their wildlife. In between their shows, they have actually located some time for it. So we can say we do have it, but I'm not sure about are all of them from India. In my country, there are TV programs about wild animals, though I'm not sure if they're all filmed in the Indian jungles or owned by Indian companies. Nonetheless, that means, however, these programs featuring wild animals are available. Additionally, a few small channels here broadcast short, interesting clips of wild animals between their regular shows. Is it clear? Yes? Let's move on to the next question. What's the most famous wild animal from your country? What's the most famous wild animal from your country? Tell me. This answer could be a one-word answer, right? But you have to elaborate and make it 2 to 3 sentences. How will you do that? I think the most famous wild animal in my country would be Bengal tigers, because it's the national animal and everyone seems to know about it. Apparently, even a very young child knows that tiger is the national animal. So maybe we can call it the most famous animal from my country. Or in country. But you have to, if you look at the question, they're asking you what's the most famous wild animal from your country. You can say about Bengal tiger, or you can say about any other animals, or you can say, I'm not very sure which animal is the most famous from my country, but I think it could be Bengal tigers, because that's the national animal and most Indians know it. Even a very young child learns about tigers and comes to know about tigers from the very young age. So I think India would also be known for these Bengal tigers in other countries as well. So Bengal tigers would be the famous wild animal from our country. Let's see. The Bengal tiger stands out as the most renowned wild animal in my country. The most renowned. So instead of saying most famous, we can use the word most renowned. So I think Bengal tiger stands out as the most renowned wild animal from my country. Okay, just try to change 1 or 2 words. It's not compulsory that you have to change each and every word in it. It's not possible. It's impossible. Like, can you have a synonym for is? No. So you'll have to use some words in it. But you should not say the same thing, the very same thing. You should just make some kind of changes. And but I wouldn't say you should put yourself under a lot of pressure. When you're practicing it, you have to. But when you're in the examination hall and you're in a situation where you feel like you cannot actually think of anything like this, you cannot think of an alternative, the only thing that comes to your mind is just saying it the way you heard it, and then you just go for it. Just don't pressurize yourself, because you're not going to get it. What will happen is you'll become more nervous. If you become more nervous, you wouldn't be able to answer the rest of the question. So just take it with the flow when you're in the examination hall, but train yourself to rephrase it or use different words for those answers. So the Bengal tiger stands out as the most renowned wild animal in my country, being a national symbol, and it's typically introduced to people from a very young age. While lions also enjoy considerable fame, the Bengal tiger holds the top spot in popularity. Despite India's vastness, many of its diverse wild animals remain relatively unknown, even among its own population. Okay? You're answering this in 3 sentences. So try to say the same content. So how will you say even I can say it? So the first time if I'm rephrasing it, I wrote this answer. So when I rephrase it, when I say it again, it would sound different. So I'm so sure if you say it, just reading it and then saying it in your own way, it would look like an entirely different answer, but with all the good things from it. For example, I think Bengal tigers stand out as the most renowned wild animal from India, from my country. Because that's our national symbol, and even a very small child seems to know about it. And also, I guess lions are also popular, but not as much as tigers, I would say. So, I guess these tigers are facing the threat of extinction, and government is implementing policies to preserve and conserve them. Okay, I did not say the last part. Just said whatever that came to my mind. Okay? Yes. Let's look at the next question. What's your favorite wild animal from your country? I like all wild animals. I find them very cute, and I find them very interesting. But my favorite is always lion, because I have a special thing for lions, because they're the king of the jungle, and they have this regal look and stuff. The way they walk and everything's just so majestic, and it has always fascinated me. That's why lions are my favorite wild animals. Clearly, my favorite wild animal from my country is tiger. Growing up, I learned about tigers as our national animal, forging a deep emotional bond with them. They evoke memories of my childhood and instilled in me a sense of patriotism. I find tigers exceptionally beautiful, elegant, and regal, with their stripes and their majestic gait. Okay? So, this gait, the spelling is different. Gait means majestic, gait means the majestic walk. Okay, so you can answer it this way. Oh, my favorite animal from my country. My favorite wild animal from my country is obviously tigers, because I grew up learning about it. I grew up hearing about it as the national symbol, and I've always been fascinated by its beautiful stripes and its elegant and majestic gait. Okay? Let's move on to the 7th question. Do you like to watch TV programs about wild animals? You can say something like, I'm not very fond of TV programs with wild animals, because it involves chasing and killing and things like that, and violence. So I'm not very happy to watch that, and it disturbs me. So though a lot of my friends actually tell me these kind of shows are very interesting, I could never find why it's very interesting when it's all about chasing and killing and a lot of mental stress and pressure. Look at the answer. I'm not particularly fond of TV programs about wild animals because they don't hold much interest for me. While I recall enjoying them as a child when they occasionally aired, as an adult, I find them discomforting. The portrayal of hunting and chasing often depicted in these shows make me uneasy. Although some of my friends find them captivating, I struggle to see them in the same light. Okay? Yes. Let's move on to the next question. Did you learn something about wild animals at school? Of course, we were taught. Okay, did you learn? You can say we were taught. We're changing it. Of course, we were taught a lot of things about wild animals. Firstly, when I was in primary school, they taught us just the names of these animals. But as we grew up, they taught us about its habitat and told us about how a few of these animals are facing the threat of extinction and how it could affect the whole equilibrium and how important it is to protect them, conserve them, and it is important to stop disrupting the peace of their lives. Okay? Yes. In school, we learned extensively about wildlife, particularly focusing on conservation efforts. Our curriculum included chapters dedicated to wild animals, emphasizing the importance of conservation and outlining our responsibilities. See, these kind of words, emphasizing the importance of conservation. Conservation is a term that is related to wildlife. So always just learn these words. So now we're discussing these topics. If there is any word that you learn that you think is connected to this, related to this, just note it down and try to use it in few sentences and practice these questions again and try to use those words. So here you can see some good words, like we learned extensively about wildlife. Okay? Emphasizing the importance of conservation and outlining our responsibilities as children and later as adults. We were educated, again, a different word. We were taught, we were educated, we learned extensively. That shows your vocabulary. So these are the kind of words you should be using. It's not like you have to use like very difficult words right from, or the words that we even heard right from Shakespeare's play. No, that's not what you have to do. You have to use words like the right words accurately and appropriately. We were educated on the detrimental effects. These are like words we already know, but we don't quite use. Just try to use that. Effects of human actions such as deforestation, poaching on these animals and their habitats. What do you mean by poaching? Poaching, this is another term related to wildlife. Poaching, not wildlife actually. Poaching is hunting where you're not allowed to hunt. So some areas are restricted to hunt. Sometimes they allow hunting. At that point when you hunt, that's not poaching, but this is when you're not allowed, when you're not allowed to hunt, and when you hunt, that's poaching. Okay? Alright? So poaching on these animals and their habitats. Okay? Now let's move on to the next question. Where can you see wild animals? Where can you see wild animals? The answer is very obvious and it's very simple. We can see animals in the deep jungles, but we are also able to find them in the zoos, national parks, and those kind of things, where if we visit during certain times, we'll be able to see the animals they've kept there. We can also see wild animals in the jungles, but it's always not feasible, it's always not practical to go to the jungles, visit, and see them. We can see wild animals in national parks, zoos, wildlife reserves. These are like, if you don't know all these words, it's fine. You can simply say, we'll be able to see these animals in the zoos where they've kept these animals. You'll be able to see almost all types of animals, like even the venomous snakes to the very dangerous tigers or lions. So you'll be able to see all types of animals there. But if you actually want to see them in their own habitat, you might have to visit the jungles, but that's not really possible. That's not always possible, and it's very much not practical. So you can see the answer. We can see wild animals in national parks, zoos, wildlife reserves, etc. However, I always have this feeling that to truly experience the beauty of these animals, one needs to see them in their natural habitat. Unfortunately, it's not very safe for both humans and the animals, and it's not always practical. So the only option left is to visit national parks, zoos, or wildlife reserves. Okay? Yes. In which country do you think you can see many wild animals? I'm not sure about which country where in which country we'll be able to see a lot of wild animals, but I think it would be one of those countries in Africa, because a lot of TV programs on wildlife animals are shot in Africa and some African countries. So I'm sure some of the African countries will have a lot of wild animals, and you'll be able to see a lot of them in there. But I'm not quite sure about the names. I quite don't know the names of those countries. So yeah. Okay, that's how you can answer it. You can see it. I believe that in certain African countries, such as those with dense jungles, one can encounter a wide variety of wild animals. One can encounter. In the question, they've used the word see. So we're using the word what? Encounter. Wide variety of wild animals. This assumption is based on the fact that many captivating wildlife shows and documentaries are filmed in African jungles, showcasing numerous species. Additionally, when you watch African documentaries, movies, and stories, you can observe that wildlife is an integral part of the local people's lives. Hopefully, one would have the opportunity to see a greater diversity of animals there compared to other countries. Okay? So I hope now you have some idea about how to put things together, right? Yeah, so you're adding more and more information you'll be able to see in African countries, because like you always try to answer you can answer most of the questions with the why. Always think like all these questions have a sub question, which is why, and you are answering to that why as well. Okay. Yes, and add 2-3 points for that. You'll be able to give 2-3 points for that too. Now, let's talk about our favorite topic, chocolates. The very delicious topic, chocolate. Yes, you'll have questions on these type of topics as well. These are very simple, but still students find it hard to actually say things. But part A is, or part B, or part C. Would you part 1, part 2, part 3. So what you can see, not part A, part B, part C, we don't have it here. Part 1, part 2, part 3. So what you can see is you get questions that you can relate to your personal life. So try to connect it to yourself and then speak. Things would sound much better. You'll be able to articulate in a better way. You'll have better ideas coming up. For example, if you are a huge fan of chocolates, just connect it to your own life, okay? And then say it. How often do you eat chocolate? Very simple question. So if you want to avoid the word like often, then you can say, I never eat chocolates. I always eat chocolates, okay? I always eat chocolates. I'm a huge fan of chocolates, and I can eat it like every day, but I've limited myself to eating it just once or twice a week, mostly during weekends or when I'm feeling so depressed or sad, or when I have really bad cravings for it. Otherwise, because I know it's not very good for us to eat sugary chocolates, and that's what I really like and prefer. Look at the answer. So there, what was I doing? I was just connecting it with my own life and just presenting 2-3 sentences. That was very simple. I eat chocolate at least once a week because, so now here we're starting off with, in a very direct way, we're starting off by saying I eat chocolate at least once a week because I love it so much. Sometimes when I have really bad cravings, I indulge more frequently, maybe even more than once a day. I enjoy all types of chocolate, but my favorite is sweet milk chocolate. I know it's not very healthy to consume a lot of sugary chocolates, but sometimes I just can't resist. Instead of saying I cannot control my cravings for it, you can say I just cannot resist. Okay? Next. Or you can use this one, a little more advanced version. I indulge in chocolate at least once a week because of my deep love for it. Occasionally, when I experience intense cravings, I find myself enjoying it more frequently, perhaps even multiple times a day. While I appreciate all varieties of chocolate, my favorite is sweet milk chocolate. Despite being aware of the health risks associated with consuming sugary chocolates in excess, I sometimes find it challenging to resist the temptation. Okay? The usage of despite and everything, so just learn how it is properly done despite being aware, which is ing form, the health risks associated with consuming sugary chocolates in excess, consuming it a lot. Instead, you're putting the word in excess. I sometimes find it challenging to resist the temptation. Okay? What's your favorite flavor? What's your favorite flavor? You can say my favorite flavor is just caramel or whatever that comes to your mind, and then explain on it. All right. So I think the answer I've written here is about fruit-and-nut. My favorite flavor is fruit-and-nut. I've tried fruit-and-nut flavor of many brands, and I've actually liked all of them. They're really yummy. I love when smooth chocolates comes with some roasted nuts and chewy raisins. They're heaven. Okay, so that's how you can put it. Let's see, I'm a big fan of fruit and nut flavor. The mix of roasted nuts and plum raisins with creamy milk chocolate always gets me. I've tried various brands' versions of this combo, and they've all won me over. Another way of saying it is, my favorite chocolate flavor is fruit and nut. I love the combination of roasted nuts and raisins with silky, smooth, sweet milk chocolate. I can never resist this combination. I've bought the fruit and nut flavor milk chocolate of most popular brands, and I've loved them all. I'm a big fan of fruit and nut chocolate flavor. The mix of roasted nuts and plum raisins with creamy milk chocolate always gets me. I've tried various brands' versions of this combo, and they've all won me over. Look at these usages, they've all won me over. I've liked it all. So learn these kind of phrases and try to use them in your answers. Now I'll give you a few questions for you to try. You can try those questions on your own. I'll be giving you, because I won't be giving you sample answers, okay? But rather, I'll be saying the answer, but you have to frame an answer on your own. Is chocolate expensive in India? Actually, good quality chocolates are very expensive in India, but we can find chocolates of different quality, and you can even find cheap quality chocolates which are not very expensive. You can also find low quality chocolates which are not very expensive, but really good pure cocoa butter chocolates are quite expensive in India. Next, when was the first time you ate chocolate? So how will you start it? You'll start it by saying, the first time I ate chocolate, I don't quite remember the first time I ate chocolate. It must have been in my childhood. My parents must have given it to me when I was very little. I don't remember eating chocolate, but as far as I can remember, I've always eaten chocolates. Chocolates have always, I don't know when it actually began. If that is the answer, if your answer is that you don't remember when it actually began or you don't know when it happened, you can simply say that, but just add a little more information to it, okay? Yes. Is chocolate popular in India? Yes, chocolate is very popular in India now, though it used to be not very popular, because I don't remember my parents saying that they grew up eating a lot of chocolates, but now we can see chocolates in almost all the shops. You can find them even in the very small shops in the villages, so it's quite popular in India now. Now let's have a look at a different type of question, which is weekends. Let me see what you guys have to, how you will answer these questions. Liking question. Do you like weekends? How will you answer it? Yes, I like weekends. I'm a huge fan of weekends because I don't have work on weekends, so I can relax. I can do things I like to do. So I mostly watch movies or just spend some time with my favorite book or my favorite friend, and I can do things that I love to do on weekends. So I love weekends. Simple question, connected to your life and answer. You should try it on your own. We don't have sample answers here. I've given you a sample answer, but we don't have a written sample answer here. You should try it on your own. And if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments. How do you usually spend your weekends? Do you study or work? I don't usually study or work on weekends. I just want to keep some time for myself without doing the things I've been doing during the whole week. So I would do something like traveling or spending time with my parents or eating good food, watching TV, the things that I wouldn't be able to do on weekdays. So I don't do any work or study that day, but I do my works, for example, my own laundry or cleaning my room, those kind of things, but I don't do any work from my office. In your country, do men and women usually do the same kinds of things on weekends or in their free time? I think nowadays most men and women do the same kind of things during the weekends, especially in the towns and cities, because both of them will be working and they get weekends, so both of them would be relaxing and they would be ordering food online or they'd be cooking together or doing some kind of things like that. But in the past, I'm sure that must have not been the case. Men and women definitely did different things. The last and the final question. Do you plan for your weekends? Well, it depends. Sometimes I make plans for my weekend, sometimes I don't. But if I'm making a plan for my weekend, I really want to get it done. For example, if I'm making a plan to go shopping, I'm very particular that I need to get it done. Or if I'm making a plan to visit a friend, I make sure I do that. I don't always make plans for weekends, but whenever I make sure I do it, and I enjoy it the most. So these are the questions. So we did a few questions on wildlife, chocolate, weekends, and things like that. And I hope it was helpful for you. Try these questions on your own. Record yourself. Look at these answers. Take the help of these answers. Record yourself. Listen to it. See where you're making mistake. See if you're able to use these new words and phrases that we learned in these sample answers. You should try to use them, and then it will naturally flow to you. So we'll see in the next live, which will be on next Monday at 10 a.m. Stay tuned. Bye-bye. Take care and have a beautiful day ahead.